Alrighty. Good morning and afternoon, seventh graders, depending on what time of the day you're doing your math lesson. Alrighty, so today you are going to work with multiply and divide positive and negative integers. Okay, so we have here for -4 times -11. That is one of the different ways that you can write multiplication. You can also write it if it was just parentheses. That is the same as a multiplication problem, okay? And then you have your division of -32 divided by 4. That is another division problem there, okay? So we have already worked with adding and subtracting both positive and negative integers, fractions, and mixed numbers now, and even our decimals. Okay, so let's look at where we're going with this. Well, we are going to need it for multi-step equations with positive, negative, rational numbers. Okay, so here you have a decimal, which is a rational number, and they are both negative. You're going to have to multiply those two. And here you have fractions that are positive and negative that we are going to have to divide. Those are type of things that we're going to come across when we get to equations and other computation that we're going to do throughout the year. All right. So if you have your textbook page and titles, this is going to be number 12 to make sure that you're getting all the right pages in there for the multiply and divide integers. And this is how we're going to glue this in after we are done filling in. On the back side of your notes, it does say glue here, and then you'll end up folding it so it fits into your composition notebook nice and neatly. All right, so we are going to multiply and divide integers. 1. Consider repeatedly adding negative integers. In other words, we will now explore multiplying negative integers. So we need to draw a model of two groups of three negative signs. Okay, this setup is going to model what 2 times -3 is. Okay, so here we have two groups, and we're going to put our three negatives inside. All right, one group and two groups. So how much do we have there? Well, if I count it up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I have 6 negatives. Okay, so that means our solution to 2 times -3 is a -6. Okay, it's like saying you borrowed $3 twice. Now you owe that person $6. Okay, so let's consider now if we had a -4 and a -2. Okay, so that means we are going to need 4 groups, and within the 4 groups, we're going to have 2 negative signs. Okay, so 1, 2, that's our first group. Our second group of -2, third group of -2, and our last group of -2. So here we have our 4 -2s. But if we are asked for -4 times -2, that actually means we need the opposite of 4 groups of 2 negatives. Okay, so that means we need to go back in and we have to change these negative symbols into positives, because remember, what's the opposite of a negative? A positive. So I'm going to use a different color this time, and I'm going to change all these negatives into positives. Look at that. So now what do we really have? Instead of having a -8, we have a +8. Okay? So if this is your need to pause this and finish filling in your notes. All right, so now here we have what is -3 times -5. Sorry. All right, so if we draw a model of repeated addition of -5, okay, so if we have 3 groups of -5, that's what we want to draw. Okay, So if you do them all in a straight line, going vertically, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we want 3 of those. That's like skip counting by 5. 3, 4, 5. There's my 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I have 5, 10, 15. We have a negative 15 right there. But because it's a negative 3, that means we have to take the opposite and convert each one into our model. All right, so that means each of the negatives are now actually a positive. Okay, so what's our answer then? Well, if I have 15 positive signs, that means I have a positive 15. Okay. All right, let's pause this if you need to fill it in. Let's go to number 4. Think of the expression of negative 4 times 6. Okay, so we need 4 groups of our 6. That's what it's asking. All right, so here I'm going to go through and I'm going to make my positive signs. I'm going to make them a little bit different. Okay, so I need 6 in 4 groups. So you can kind of do this like with 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. That's one group of 6. Okay, now let's do our other 2, 4, 6, 2, 4. So right there, it looks like our answer would be a positive 24. But if we are asked to take the opposite and then convert each sign in our model to the opposite of a positive, which is a negative, that's what it wants us to do. Okay. So now, let's see. Nope. I'm trying to see if I can make it even thicker. All right. We'll just go as thick as we can. Okay. So now I'm going to go through, and these are actually now negatives. So each positive is a negative. So then what do we really have? Well, now they're all negatives. So that means I actually have a negative 6, 12, 24. Okay. So let's look at 5. If we compute the following expressions without actually having to draw it out, okay? So let's think. I know 5 times 4, that's 5 sets of positive 4, so that's a positive 20, okay? B, if we have 5 times a negative 4, well, our number's still going to be a 20, but instead of positive 4s, I have a negative. Okay, same thing, 5 times 4 is still always going to be a 20, but now I need to see, is this going to be a negative 20 or a positive? Well, this negative here in front of our 5 means to take the opposite of the negative 4. What's the opposite of a negative 4? A positive. So our answer is a positive 20. Okay, try doing D, E, and F, and then come back to the video to see what your answer should be. All right, so they all are going to have a 56, but the middle one, E, because you have only all of your sets actually being negative, means we have a negative solution. Okay, so if we thought about this, could we determine the sign of our answer before we actually multiply the digits and explain? I would say yes, we can most definitely know. Okay, so if I know I have a positive group with a positive number being multiplied, we're going to have a positive answer. Okay, you could figure out if I have 5 sets of a negative number, my answer is going to be a negative. If I have a negative number of groups, that means I'm going to have to take the opposite of that negative. I'm going to have a positive. Okay, so you just, yes, you can. Okay, so we want to look to see if we're going to take our opposite. All right, we are going to flip this over and work on our division. Okay, so here you have a fraction of negative 6 over 2. Okay, that just means a negative 6 divided by 2. Okay, so we have to take 6 negatives and split them up into 2 groups. Okay, so here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then to know what is in each group is how you know you've divided. That's what division is. Multiplication is what's all of them together. Division is how many are in each group then. Okay, so we would say a negative 3 is in each group. Okay. So what if we have 2 negatives? Okay, the hypo, this is supposed to be a negative 5 right here. So we're going to draw 10 negatives and we're going to split them up into 5 groups. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Those are 10 negatives split up into 5 groups. So if you notice, you have 2 negatives in each group. Okay? But if we had a negative 5, well, I guess that was supposed to be an opposite 5. Overthinking it. It happens. All right. If we were to ask to use a negative 5 to divide by, that means we need to take the word opposite of 5 groups of 10 negative signs. So what does that mean? That means we have to go back in and take all of these negatives and turn them positive. Because what's the opposite of a negative? A positive. All right. So that changes our answer. Instead of being a negative 2, we have a positive 2. Because that's what is now in each group. Okay, finish filling in your notes. Number 9, think of the expression of negative 15 divided by 3. Okay, so that means we have 3 groups and we need to split 15 negatives between them. Okay, so if you want, you can draw 3 rectangles. If you like to pre-make your groups to stay organized, because we are going to put quite a few negatives in there. Okay, so I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Okay, so that is my negative 15 split up into 3 groups. Okay, but what if I was asked to convert to the opposite? Okay, if we were asked to convert to the opposite, we would actually have positive, but we are not. If we have a positive here, then we keep our negative up here. So we have a negative 5 as our answer. Okay. All right. So make sure you understand the bottom of a fraction means to take the opposite. Okay, so let's look and draw a model for 24 divided by -8. So we need 8 groups because that's what we're dividing by, and split the 24 between them. So it's like if you had 24 cookies and 8 students, how many cookies does each student get? Okay, so we'll make our little group of plus signs. Okay, so I need 8 groups. Split it in half, split it into a half, and another half. All right, double check. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I got my 8 groups. So now we're going to go in and we're going to put 24 plus signs. Okay, so we got to split them up between each one. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And one more to make our 24 total. Okay, so 8 times 3 is 24. So we see that we have 3 plus signs right now in each of our 8 groups. Okay, but what are we dividing by? We are dividing by a -8. So that means we have to go and convert each positive now into a negative. So that changes our actual solution. Okay, so I'm going to make this a little bit bigger, so hopefully it'll show up. Yes, perfect. These are our negatives now. So each of these, I'm going back through and changing into a negative. Okay. Now, if you don't have different size markers, you could just scribble them out and then off to the side with your negatives. Okay, it would work the same way. So what remains? Well, instead of having 3 positives, I have 3 negatives in each group. Okay. Now let's look at 11. So for 11, we have the same type of numbers into our division. Okay, I have 30 divided by 6. Well, 6 can go into 30 5 times. Okay, so then I look at B. How many times does 6 go into -5? Well, if I split those negatives up, I would have -5 in each group. But C is where it becomes different because you want to take the opposite of what you had in B because you have that -6 at the bottom. So the opposite of a negative is a positive. So our answer is a +5 for a -30 divided by a -6. Okay, you should go ahead and pause and try doing the next 3 and then check what the answer is once you're done. So here we have a negative divided by a positive, and we get a -8 in each group. Now this means to take the opposite of our negative. So we actually get a positive. Now this one says to take the opposite of a positive. We actually get a negative. Right? So would we be able to tell our sign of our answer if we have a positive or negative beforehand? Yes. Want to know why? Because we can look to see if we need to take the opposite. Okay, so do you need to take the opposite? Something you could ask yourself with every problem. And that will help you figure out what your actual next answer is. All right, if you want, go ahead and glue this in and then come back so that you can practice some more. Okay, because here we have a -9 times a -5. Then we also have a -9 plus a -5. So let's compare. So we can see what's the difference when we add negatives and when we multiply our negatives. Okay, so what's something they have in common? They both have a -9 and a -5, right? Okay, they both have an operation sign. They are both a computation problem. They both need to be evaluated. That also means to solve. Okay, so then let's go and see what they actually mean. Okay, what's the difference with this one? Well, this one means we need to take the opposite of, okay, we're going to take the opposite of -5 9 times. So then that means we would have 5 plus signs, 2, 3, 4, 5, 9 times. Okay, so I would end up 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 5 more plus signs in each of these. Okay, and then how many plus signs do I have? Almost looks like a little grid paper going on. It's a quick way of making my plus signs. All right. So then I would actually get that my answer is a positive 45. Okay. We took two negatives, and because we're taking the opposite of what we are multiplying, our number actually got bigger. But let's look at what happens when we add. When we add, okay, we are decreasing twice. Okay, we go down 9 times, if this was our number line, and then we go down even 5 more times. So our solution ends up actually being a -14. So our number decreased even more. So that's just comparing why we use different techniques for our multiplying and our addition. Okay, so that is a quick little why we have different ways we approach it. All right, so on this page, you have some you do and fill in the blanks. Okay, so pause the video, try these 5 problems, and see how you're doing with getting your negatives in the right answers. Okay, all right, well, go back, check your multiplication answers. This one you should have gotten a negative. Okay, and then this meant take 3 groups of -10 to get your -30. You're taking the opposite of -4 to get a positive 36. The opposite of positive 7 means you have a -21. And then you're taking the opposite of a -7 to get a positive 21. I got 5 more for you to check. Okay, do your division. Okay, and then remember, this is one of the 3 different ways that you can write a multiplication problem. The parentheses are not absolute value. It just means you're taking this number times that number. Okay, so division, pause it, write your problems down and solve them, and then come back and check your answers. All right, we have a -1, a 5, -7, 3, and -8. Okay, go ahead and wrap that up and make sure you have all your notes ready. If you're coming into classroom from a B or A day, make sure you have your notes filled in. Okay, all right. Have a great night and day. We'll see you tomorrow.